Hello, wonderful listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Reflect Live, the podcast where stories come to life and hearts are opened. I am your host, Michelle. Here in Reflect Live, we offer a platform for people from all walks of life to share their experiences, their triumphs, and their challenges. It's a space where people thrive and connections are made through the power of storytelling. And today, we have something truly special in store for you. We're honored to have Lance Howell, affectionately known as infamous the Dad Dork. Prepare yourself for a roller coaster of emotions as Lance shares his unique perspective on how the Dad Dork got started, his passion for the ministry, and heartwarming comments that his viewers post. So grab your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into another episode of Reflect Live. Get ready to be inspired, moved, and maybe even crack a smile or two. This is Reflect Live with Michelle.
Tell me, Lance, how did you get into the comedy side? Like, what triggered that? That's fun.
It was all by accident and all organic. It was not anything intentional, to be honest with you, Michelle. It kind of happened, like I said, on accident. And what generated it was my neighbor Tim had a new security system put in, and he and I are just a couple of goofballs. And so once I realized there was a camera filming me going up to his door, I started just acting like an idiot. And, knowing that he was recording everything, and then we could go back and laugh at it. And it was hilarious. And so I showed my family, and they're all like, okay, yeah, it's funny. So not there shortly thereafter, we had our own security system put in by Vivint that came by. And I'd always wanted cameras around the house just for, added security. And so the doorbell camera, I'm putting on my hose and I hear the alert saying camera recording, and something clicked in my brain like, oh, I've got an audience. And I've always enjoyed making people laugh. And so I just walked up to it with the thought of my family's going to get a kick out of this. And just, I think I started singing into it, just being like, camera recording. What are you record? I mean, just stupid. And of course, I thought it was more funny than they did, but it gravitated to the next time it went off. I was like, oh, I can tell a dad joke just for my family.
Right.
And then I can't remember the specifics, but somebody encouraged me, maybe one of the boys, like, you need to put that on TikTok or whatever. And I fought that because I'm like, TikTok, I'm pushing 50. What am I doing?
Right.
And I was never huge into social media, but it just kind of, I started on my own Instagram account, and then the responses and the encouragement, like, you need to go bigger with that. And so I gave in, and I'd never imagined that it took off or would take off like it did. Within a short amount of time, maybe 2 months, I realized, wait, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than me. This really resonates, and this isn't just about making people laugh. It's more than that. So honestly, I'd never intended for any of this to happen. I just didn't. No.
So, because I'm a silly person as well, and I don't know if my kids would encourage me to, hey, put that on TikTok so all my friends can see. I don't know if they would say that.
Well, I can tell you that when they were teenagers, they definitely wouldn't, because the whole climate.
Don't talk to me.
That whole climate about, oh my gosh, I can't be embarrassed. And of course, I always thought that was my role as their parent anyway, to embarrass them. But now that they're older and more mature, they're like, whatever, just do you, Dad.
I don't even remember which one, but I was down on that day, like something happened in my life, right? And I was just having a bad day. And then I just turned on TikTok and your reel came up, and it just cracked me up so much that it just changed my spirit, and it was just,
I love that.
It was just wonderful. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
It just means a lot. Your bits that you do, because how I was experiencing and how I was feeling at that time, it just, made my frown upside down is what it did.
Yeah. And that, honestly, that's why I continue to do it. And then once I realized that I was resonating and I was having that big impact on people, then I started taking it more seriously, not necessarily in the content itself, but taking it more seriously as far as realizing what this means to certain people. And the comments, like what you just described, I get those on a regular, whether it be direct or comments. And some of them, Michelle, I'm not prepared for. I'm not equipped for, but some of them are really, really.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah. I mean, specifically, I'd say I never prepared myself when you're talking about just doing stupid dad jokes. I ever prepared myself for the responses or messages of like, I was considering suicide. I was considering, harming myself. But then your reel came up or your video came up, and I got a laugh, and I just something clicked, and and just that type of impact. Like, I'll show my wife, and I'm like, babe, I just do dad jokes, but and then she's my rock, and she's like, but you need to understand, it's the Lord is using you, and your God is using you as a vessel, a link in the chain to reach people in this difficult time. And so just things like you described, like I was depressed, or I was down. I really, I watched your messages. One lady said, I watched your videos for 3 hours straight, and it cured me of my recent depression. I was just like, oh my gosh,
Thank you, Jesus. That's basically all.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, it's definitely not about me, for sure.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Now, like currently, do you create the content at more of a message, or are you just still flamboyant about it?
I get the most response. I've tried kind of deviating from the basic standard, walking up, dad joke, silly response, later Gator see at church. I've tried deviating from that. I don't get the views as much. And it's not about like, well, I don't get the views, so I'm not doing that. It's, I want to reach as many people. And it just seems like, I don't know what the algorithms are or mean or whatever, but it just seems like that standard dad joke, I try to keep it within 30 to 60 seconds because of people's attention span. That type of content really resonates with people and gets more views. And, I haven't had a lot of people saying, okay, this is getting old, try something else. The feedback, I do read a lot of the comments, and I try to reply as many as I can. And it still resonates with people. So if that is what is reaching more people, then I'm going to continue to do that, and always end it with see you at church. And that,
now, where did that come from?
Honestly, it was by accident. I didn't walk up. The first one that I started doing it, I didn't walk up in my mind saying, I'm going to say see you at church. But it definitely was after I came back from church on a Sunday. And a lot of times I'll feel so rejuvenated and, my battery recharged. I'll just be in a good mood and like, let's go do it. And it just came out of my mouth. And the later Gator thing, I mean, that came before, but the see at church just came out of my mouth. And I truly believe that was the Lord using me, because I didn't walk up saying, I'm going to say,
church. Yeah.
Encourage people to go to church. Cause you know how a lot of people are funny about religion and Christianity. And I definitely wasn't trying to create any conflict, but it just came out. And then the response was like, oh, okay, well, everybody's cool with it. So let's continue saying that.
I love it. It just fits with your whole, I don't know, what would you call it? Skit, or I don't know what you say.
Shtick or yeah.
What'd you say? What'd you call it?
Shtick. My wife will tell you it's like me on steroids, but it definitely is an act. And so I try to be as clean as possible. I want anybody in the household, regardless of their age, to be able to watch it, and whether they get the joke or not, or they think the joke is funny, because I know the jokes aren't all good, but that's kind of part of the process.
Well, you make it hilarious, like when you go closer to the camera and you repeat yourself. And I mean, if they're not funny, which I think they are, you make it that way by your actions and your reactions, I guess, to your own joke. So.
That's the goal. I mean, a lot of times I'll see a really bad one, a really corny one. I'm like, how can I spin this in a way where I can get a giggle? It's kind of like a challenge, because there are some bad jokes, and to me that makes them even funnier. So
that's great. Now, did you go out and buy a fanny pack, or did you have one?
The first fanny pack I used to use was my wife's, and it was a Lululemon fanny pack. And because it had the logo on it, she was like, you got to turn that around. You can't.
I can't.
So the first one was a gray one, a Lululemon, and it was a little tight on me. So they came home from some event where they were giving out, just swag. And she's like, look, I found you a Fanta orange fanny pack. And I was like, yes, and so I started using the orange. Yeah.
And now, have you had opportunities with the because I think you're probably an influencer. If like I don't know what that means. Have you had
Just a
opportunities?
dork.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just
Have
a
you had
dork.
opportunities like with the Today Show or anything like that?
No, not really. It was interesting. There's a TV show on A&E called Neighborhood Wars.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they reached out, and when I did, it was like after 2 months of doing this, they reached out wanting to. There's a dynamic where people truly feel like that this is real, as far as me going to my neighbor's house and being a real person, and they thought that I really was going to my neighbor's house on a regular basis, and I was a real person, and so the neighborhood aspect, they wanted to play that up, and it is true, but a lot of times it's my own house, and it's
Sure.
it's a character, and so and plus when I looked into their show, it was more about conflict and divisive. It was like they were glorifying fights and things like that. And I just told them, hey, I appreciate it, but it doesn't really align with what I'm trying to do. And there was also a celebrity, well, not a celebrity. There was some type of cooking show that wanted me to come on, and I just don't. What am I going to do? I don't cook. What am I
gonna do?
What am I going to do? What am I going to show up, with my fanny pack and my stupid visor and be like, Lance, the person. I mean, you guys don't want on your show.
Right.
So anyway, I just declined. Respectfully declined. So, but that's about it. I'm not doing this to really gain fame or notoriety. It's really just trying to serve and make people laugh. So
that's good. Well, you are doing an amazing job at that.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Be blessed, and thank you again.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
That's a wrap